Monster Hunter Wilds is still managing to sweep the entire industry with its mega impact. The game has continued to be a bestseller. And now there's even more news to talk about surrounding the game, from the game being sold out, whether Capcom's microtransactions are reason enough to not buy the game, and the big elephant in the room, which is that if Wilds can be considered by some capacity as woke or not. And hopefully people can listen to what I have to say in this video before they come to some conclusion themselves. It's a complicated answer, but I think we need to retain that common sense at the forefront, otherwise this whole culture war thing is going to quickly spiral out of control. So let me explain this all to you now, and hopefully by the end of it, you will realize where I'm coming from. Firstly, some updates. As of this video posting, Capcom has officially stated that Wilds has sold over 8 million units in just 3 days of sale. It has now officially become the fastest selling Capcom game of all time, which is genuinely insane. By the way, that means that in 3 days, Monster Hunter Wilds has pretty much sold as much as Helldivers 2 did in the first 2 months combined. And if we also want to compare it to, say, World, the previous mega entry, that game has also achieved about 21 million units in lifetime sales over a few years. 28 million actually if you include the expansion Iceborne, so Wild is clearly already on the trajectory to reach similar if not even further heights in the future. To also show how Wilds is affecting things, the PlayStation 5 bundles that include Wilds have also been selling out. Here's one of those bundles from a Japanese retailer, completely sold out with no updates yet as of when it'll be back in stock. Even on Amazon, the PS5 Wilds bundle is also sold out, only listing other options as ways of buying it. Pretty much, the release of this game, it just kind of emptied the stocks of PlayStations all over the world. Which makes sense because having played Wilds myself on PS5 Pro, I can say that the game still runs perfectly fine over there. Although, I did see people online get mad at me for celebrating Wilds when it still runs poorly on PC. Which firstly, that feels kinda stupid to say that I'm ignoring the PC state of Wilds when I did a whole video about the very fact that Wilds is not well optimized for PC, and I criticized Capcom for an entire video there too, in case you didn't see it. But even though I've already criticized Capcom for poor PC optimization, I'm still apparently a shill for the game because I'm enjoying it. While again, not realizing that I'm playing the game on PS5 and not on PC, because again, like I said in that other video, that people of course conveniently forget to push their own narratives, I explain in that video that there's usually one primary platform for third-party games that publishers target for the highest sales. And for the past 2 generations now, it's been PlayStation 4 and now 5 as the main platform for optimization when it comes to new third-party releases. Again, that's not me defending Capcom. As I said, I criticized them aplenty already, but I am letting you know that it is just what it is. I don't know what these people are attacking me on Twitter want me to do about that exactly. I don't control which platform gets preferential treatment over another. I don't work for Sony or Capcom or any of these other game publishers. I want you guys to understand that I rarely, if ever, get codes for games before release, or really at all, because I'm so open when it comes to criticizing the practices of publishers and studios. And to state it here, by the way, no, I didn't get a free code for Wilds, I bought it myself, and actually in the past, I did try to apply for free codes for games like Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2, and guess what? I was immediately rejected for those too. So trying to pay me as some Capcom shill, that's goofy to me. Like most companies, they don't want to work with someone like me because I like to say, things openly and criticize them all the time. And that's totally fine of them, because it then allows me to say what I really want to say without all the red tape that's stopping me from doing so. I can still enjoy a game while also criticizing it in other ways, and I will be doing that in this video too. Which probably means that I'll just further dig my own grave of not getting free codes in the future more, but what can you do? For an example, there's this article from Game Rant titled Monster Hunter Wilds has controversial microtransactions. The game has been criticized for not allowing you to edit your hunter or palico to your own free will unless you buy microtransactions for these packs to do so. Sure, you can change your hair or your eye color for free, but to say change your character's entire body or skin color? Yeah, you will need to buy a microtransaction thing to do so. It's been this way for a while, World did it too, and no, it's not a good thing that it's still here. Granted, Capcom does give you one free voucher to change your hunter and palico, but once that's used, if you need it again, you'll have to pay now. Regardless, if you ask me, such a simple function should not be monetized at all in a game like this or really any other, especially when it's a full price game. The only reason that Capcom does this is to obviously prey on the whales who play their games. By the way, if you don't know what that means, a whale when it comes to like gambling and free-to-play games, they're the users who spend the most money usually, hence the name because they're the biggest targets. But I don't think it's wrong of me to say that the game Capcom has made here is objectively good, on PS5 at least. Obviously, my opinion on this game would be completely different had I played it on PC, but I didn't. And I can enjoy a game while also being critical of it, but I do think the microtransaction structure of not just Wilds but many AAA games, they are downright predatory. I still think even skins in say a game like Marvel Rivals are far too expensive. Same goes with Fortnite or any other game. Because think about it, why are we okay with games having skins for one character be somewhere close to $20 when a full retail game is like $80? You're telling me that that one skin is worth as much as 25% of a whole AAA game like Wilds or Dark Souls. Yeah, of course it's ridiculous. I think microtransactions in general are awful. No, of course they won't ever go away because they make too much money. Why do you think that Fortnite has new bundles and crossover skins like every other few days at this point? I wouldn't be surprised if the dedicated Fortnite players buy so many cosmetics that they end up having to eat ice soup for a week because their bank accounts are in the red. In a perfect world, no AAA full-price game would have microtransactions, but again, look, I'm not defending these companies. But the question needs to be asked, which is why would they, as in these companies, push microtransactions so hard? Besides the fact they just want to make more money, the other point is simply that video games are just really very expensive to make now. Why do you think you're seeing so many games getting remasters lately? It's simple, because remasters are a cost-effective way for publishers to make money without having to spend hundreds of millions in investments to make a whole new game. And many times actually, in case you don't know, remasters are specifically released prior to the development of a sequel game. Remember that when Darksiders 3 was in development, Darksiders 1 and 2 got re-released as remasters. Sure, it was to drum up hype and get new fans to play the series in case they haven't already, but the true reason was that the sales from those remasters would then be funneled into the development of that third game. So pretty much whenever I see a remaster for some game coming out, chances are they're doing that to gauge interest in that series and to also fund a future potential game in that series too. I guarantee you that that upcoming remaster of Days Gone is not to only gauge interest in the Days Gone 2, but they're going to use that game's sales to pay for the potential development of a sequel in that series as well. It's not rocket science, guys, I know, but with Monster Hunter, Capcom is doing this because they know that they can. I mean, they did it with Devil May Cry as well. You can buy experience points or just straight up unlock super-powered versions of the playable characters without actually needing to beat the harder modes to unlock them, but just use money instead. Is it scummy? Yeah, it is. Are they the only company that does this? Of course not. Remember when Konami sold extra save slots for Metal Gear Survive? Because I remember that, and it still baffles me that they did that even to this day. So while I do think you should criticize companies for practices that are anti-consumer, you should also give praise where you can, otherwise, what's really the point of any of this? A good comparison I remember, a while back I got asked during the whole Warhammer female custodies controversy, and people were wondering if they should buy Space Marine 2, cause won't that support the expansion of the other stuff that the company does that you don't like? While it is a bit complicated, I believe it's important to support the things you like while supporting the parts of the company you don't. And you're not pro-woke or whatever they want to label you as if you, for example, bought and played Space Marine 2, while also refusing to buy any of that female custody stuff that they were also making. You can reward the good products and reject the bad ones to send a message. And I think the best case scenario for Wilds here is clearly no matter what these people try to do or say, they likely cannot and will never cause a boycott on a mammoth franchise like this, even though some have tried already. But it would be in your best interest to support the games you love, but if they have things a part of them like microtransactions that you don't support, then just simply don't buy them. Sure, for some the answer would be to simply not buy the game at all, but for those of us who live in reality, it's more gray than it is black and white for others. Those microtransactions in Wilds are very likely not being pushed by the developers but by the executives at the top of Capcom to satisfy investors. But the monsters in the game, how they react to your attacks and their animations and your weapons and how cool you look and all of that, that's the developers. I see no reason to punish the team who made Monster Hunter Wilds for decisions that are very clearly out of their hands and above their pay grade. The best approach is one of two paths. You can either boycott the game in its entirety and just not play it, that's your choice and it's totally up to you. Or you can play the game and enjoy it like I am while also completely ignoring the microtransactions and not giving any extra money to those options, and instead only playing for the actual game itself, which is full of content already, in my opinion, justifies its price tag. Don't take what I'm saying here as me being pro-company or something, because the reality is that these things are far more complicated than that. I do try on this channel to keep my criticisms targeted at those who actually make the decisions, not the developers themselves. Well, unless a developer decides to attack fans, like in say Avowed or Kingdom Come's case, then it's kinda different. But in the way that Capcom has gone about it, I do genuinely think that the game they've made here is one of quality, on PS5 at least. And if any version of the game needs to be boycotted or ran through the mud with bad reviews, it is the PC version, but clearly that's already happening and good. I'm glad that it is. Because despite me being a console peasant player, I do believe that PC players deserve far better, and if you watch this channel a lot, you know this is not the first time I've criticized the company for treating PC players like second-class users. But we also need to be adults about these things and not thrash around like children if we don't get our way to a T. I've seen people online call me an apologist for wokeness because I am playing Wilds, which is utterly ridiculous and really disappointing to see. For an example, Pirate Nation posted this from Reddit, how some users think Wilds is too easy and has removed things like egg collecting as a side quest objective. This somehow means the game has lost its soul, but I disagree. All the things that Wilds has removed so far from what I've played, again, I'm not done quite yet, but I think I am pretty far into the story. The things that have been removed were mostly just busy work that hampered the core experience, in my opinion. I don't know about you, but I found the egg collecting side quests to just be boring and very annoying to do. I just never enjoyed doing those. So I can't speak for everyone but for myself, and I only did those quests if they were required of me to do so. But once it was no longer needed for like whatever it was that I was doing, I would never touch those side quests again myself. Obviously, companies have access to the data from their games. They can see which missions, what monsters, weapon types, and so on get used the most in their games, and what obviously doesn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if following World's release over the years that Capcom came to the conclusion that their raw data was telling them that, hey, people really don't like doing these egg quests. They don't like this mechanic, or they're not engaging with this, so they just removed what the players weren't clearly engaging with in the first place and then just streamlined the experience. And I'm of the mind that this is only a net positive. To me, Monster Hunter here hasn't lost its soul at all. It's still what it's always been, but if you disagree, that's totally fine too. It just now doesn't include stuff that frankly I never even went out of my way to engage with anyways. Sure, it will piss some people off, but like I said, I say my opinion despite what others think. Sometimes people get mad at me or not, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, one user named Manga Lawyer, another Twitter user, who I do find says things that resonate with people, decided to attack me on that very same Pirate Nation post where he said this: "You bootlick modern slop Type 1 Type 2 founded on ESG standards, pretending to fight the system while being the system itself and profiting from it." And I don't agree with his statement here, and clearly the comments that responded to him was mixed as best too. And I can't say I wasn't disappointed to hear that Manga Lawyer decided I was somehow against him for whatever reason because I was enjoying Monster Hunter Wilds. Look, I've been noticing a lot, especially in 2025 so far, that a lot of people who were on the Gamergate side have been what I can only call fighting amongst themselves. And none of it has made me particularly happy to see. I won't call each person out here because they're all entitled to their own opinions. But I do think that the infighting amongst this particular movement will do nothing but ruin the future of it if it keeps going down this route. Like I told you before, where I used Space Marine 2 and female custodies as a comparison example. You can both support a company while being criticizing to them by not buying the things they make that you don't want. But it seems in people like Manga Lawyer's eyes, the acceptance of anything they see as tainted is now bad, because it means you are against them or something, which again I disagree with completely. Look, I don't hate this guy. Do not harass him, do not dogpile him. I've only ever spoken to him once in DMs, and I still don't hate him despite him attacking me like this. I've just come to the realization that unfortunately nobody is going to agree 100% of the time with you, but I am disappointed to see so many people within Gamergate, so to speak, just fighting amongst themselves. The only way I can compare it, it's like as if you had nations that are banding together to face some bigger threat. And once that threat is defeated, now these nations feel like they need to keep warring, so they start picking fights with each other when it's pointless to do so. Look, Gamergate destroyed all the nonsense in gaming. Is it gone completely? No, of course not, but let's be real guys, and I think this needs to be said. What exactly does Gamergate or video games discussion in general become if we all just start fighting amongst ourselves simply because the bigger enemy has been defeated, so to speak? This is why, while I can criticize Manga Lawyer's comments towards me, I can also understand that he's entitled to those very same opinions. But fighting amongst ourselves will do nothing but sever a movement like this needlessly for no reason. And truly, I do think that's what the opposition of, say, Gamergate would really want, which is to have it be destroyed from within by its own actions. And I find it ridiculous that people think just because I like Wilds that I am now somehow pro-woke or something, which is definitely not the case. Because there's now brown characters in the game, there's women who are strong in it, and there's plenty of diversity not only in the monsters and fauna, but the very people of various sizes, but I don't want to show examples of that in-game, because if you know, you know, and I don't want to spoil that story stuff in case you haven't seen what I'm alluding to yet. Let's just say there's more diversity than human beings or Wudwuds in the game, and again, that's cool, but I'll leave that there for spoiler reasons. And honestly, the more I play through Wild's story, the more I'm impressed where the story of this game almost starts veering somewhat into things like a game like Final Fantasy, or the Tales of series would tackle instead. So to see a Monster Hunter story be what it's about, again, being very vague here for spoilers, is really cool to me. And having strong female characters is not a bad thing, because we've always had strong female characters in video games before and it was never a problem. The reason why Wilds gets away with having strong female characters is because firstly, they show that they're strong, then they don't tell you who they are all the time. Instead of Olivia telling you that she's strong, you see her fighting monsters. Instead of Alma saying that she helps people, you see her helping people. And Gemma, of course, is creating the very weapons that you use to fight these monsters outside. Another big reason why Wild's female representation works where other games doesn't is because Wilds also doesn't bring attention to the fact that these are indeed females in the first place. They're not situated or given preferential treatment for just being women. Men are also not belittled, as far as I can tell anyway, in Wild's story or world either. These characters, whether they are men or women, they just kind of exist and that's it within the world. Does the Wild's core cast kind of lack a strong male presence? I mean, yeah, to a degree. But again, for me, that's not really the case because my hunter is obviously a man himself, so that presence is filled with my hunter being present, obviously. Regardless, I do think in general the culture war stuff has started to branch off into its own little subcategories, where suddenly this movement that was once unified is willingly trying to force itself to be splintered because it's either this person's way or that one's, or it's the highway for all of us. And I don't think that's a good way forward for any of us as a group at all. It's a terrible precedent, and the amount of infighting I've seen in 2025 alone is nothing short of disappointing. We're all in this, the online discussions, the movement, the videos, the Twitter stuff. All of it is because everyone is coming together to talk and make games better. Look, I already know me or someone else won't agree 100%, and that's fine, but there's no reason for me to go out of my way to attack some other content creator or something when there's bigger problems to be fixed here. Capcom has issues, obviously they do. But I'm completely in my own right to criticize them where it matters, which I have done already in this video and others too, despite people trying to push the narrative that I somehow haven't, which is totally not true, while also enjoying the parts of the experience that do resonate and those should be celebrated. Like for example, I can criticize Nexus mods, who recently banned a mod that turned the character Nada into a white person. The character is originally brown skinned, but of course there's still mods up on Nexus mods that turn Henry, say in Kingdom Come 2, into a black guy despite him being Czech. Like, these are double standards that do need to be called out. If we're going to allow the Turn Henry Black mod to exist, then so too should the Turn Nada White mod. The only reason it's not allowed is because of blatant bias. I also heard people say that the game pushes woke diversity on you in Wilds, but I also disagree with that too. Wilds is clearly a game where you play a bunch of outsiders entering a place that hasn't been documented in hundreds of years. This means, of course, the people you'd meet in this new region would be different than those who came outside of it. Of course, you're going to find plenty of people online saying that Nada the little boy is also a bad character. And while I don't really find him great either personality-wise or in general, at the very least the character is meant to be a child. So it stands to reason that a child would be impulsive and not very knowledgeable like, say, an adult. As for Nada being dark-skinned, I mean, okay, why is that bad? His tribe is all kinds of people. And the actual origins of his tribe, which I won't get into here because of spoilers, but let's just say the origin of Nada's tribes are not what it seems, and for good reason. And I found the reasoning for what his tribe really is to be cool actually, but again, being vague here, sorry, for story reasons, in case you are playing it. But I think downplaying the success of Wilds to simply it has women or a dark-skinned character means it's bad is just going to do nothing for Gamergate as a movement. And I think I've made enough compelling cases in the past when it comes to how I would consider something to be woke versus when it isn't. For an example, if the women in Wilds were talking down to everything and saying we're the best because we're women, yeah, we would have a problem. But I think just attacking things for the sake of attacking things with no actual objective in mind will just damage your position further. So I just ask people that when you are criticizing things, when you are attacking something or whatever with games or anything else, think before you do it. Because if I'm being honest, there's been too much infighting already, and it just saddens me when I see it. We're supposed to be striving to make video games better, and we'll get nothing done by attacking one another. And I do think that Wild's success is very good for video games, but I also think it's important to keep that conversation going about how it does have predatory microtransactions. Like any other AAA game that pushes this sort of stuff. We need to be better, we are winning the fight, and no, the whole wokeness thing will not disappear immediately despite facing massive blows. But this attacking of someone like me for enjoying a game I'm supposed to hate because me liking it somehow means that I'm not suddenly 100% aligned to these arbitrary things I apparently need to adhere to is ridiculous. I played Kingdom Come 2 to completion. I criticized what I didn't like and said what I did like about it. I did the same thing with Veilguard, Forspoken, and many others too. And all those games I just mentioned, by the way, I 100%ed and got the Platinum trophies for as well, so I play these games. And we need to be open to discussions even if it means we're not going to agree 100% of the time. And if your reaction to that is to lash out, you need to understand that you're just going to hurt the movement more than anything else. I already know some people won't agree with me here, and that's fine, but I make these videos to ensure that there is a voice of reason amongst all this chaos. And if we don't have reason, then there's nothing left really at all, is there? Ultimately, if you want to boycott Wilds for having female characters, I guess go ahead, or some brown-skinned child in it too. And if you hate it because it has body type options, which by the way, Elden Ring has that too. And like Wilds, we can criticize Elden Ring for that as well while still enjoying the game, then maybe you can see reason too. This war won't be won immediately, but I think being incredibly rigid and refusing to have common sense won't do us any good either. I don't think Wilds should divide any of us, but sadly it still is, and I want to ensure that people understand that you can still criticize and enjoy things and it doesn't make you a shill or something regardless of what others say. We need to keep our heads on straight, and I really hope this video conveys that to people. Wild has been a double-edged sword, but I don't think it's somehow the new culture war bludgeoning tool to the same degree as, say, Veilguard was. Are the body types A and B stuff stupid? Yes, absolutely, the same way it was stupid in Elden Ring, but would you consider Elden Ring woke simply because it has strong women in it and the body type stuff? Or can you have some sense and realize that these things are more complicated and we need to be vocal about these things even if the things we enjoy have them as well? Does that make sense? I hope it does. I already know somebody is going to unsubscribe while watching this, thinking that I'm somehow not pro Gamergate or something, which is ridiculous, but what can you do? Anyways, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you've made it this far. Thanks for letting me vent to you, and I'll see you in the next one.